At the start of every world, you just build. But the more you build, the more you see. And once everything connects, you can no longer fake it. So today we raise the standard of this world. Hello and welcome to Lapis. This is my French architectural city that I've been building. If you're new, I've been expanding this city, creating a whole new district. Last episode we began the process by building this massive mob farm monument, which was a fun project. I've never really dabbled with monuments before, but I've just set up 2 little market stalls as like a non-invasive detail to eventually connect to the buildings of this city. This longer one here is like a food court, so I added a little salt and pepper shaker using candles. A neat little detail. This area is going to be much more compact though, which is why I connected them to the buildings, because right here is where I plan on constructing the church of this district today, because I'm trying to challenge myself with structures. I've built very houseman-esque buildings, and I don't know if I pronounced that right, I'm sorry, and a church is much more unique in design sense. If you take a look at this map here, you'll see the aerial outline of the church, and yes, it may look like a certain biological feature, but no, I promise it's a church. I'll basically be using this as a guide for the build. This church doesn't have a farm in it, but I'm thinking of making it a librarian sanctuary, because I've always been more of a fan of trading for my levels. I love the trading system. I build my cities around it practically. I think I've said this in a past video, but I think it can be revamped and given such a bigger purpose. Like, imagine being able to set up economic systems in single player, like supply chains as a means of automizing production instead of just auto farms. I don't know, just some of my thoughts. And I know there's multiplayer servers with mods that do just that, and I'm so fascinated by how they function, but a revamped system in single player would be pretty cool. However, let's focus, because this build is not going to be easy. We've got a front face now. You should be able to recognize what I'm aiming for. Some alteration of the Notre Dame. Brutal design process though. I've been working for 8 hours so far trying to get this right. It's such a complex structure. Like, look at all those intricate details that I have to somehow translate to Minecraft. But then again, that's the fun part about these projects. They really challenge the creative side of your brain. Anyways, the palette I'm going for is pretty simple. I chose a weathered gradient. So towards the bottom, the church is wearing down with the birch and sandstone. And then as you go up, it gets whiter, less weathered with the pale oak and the mushroom. I forget the exact name of that block. The closer you look though, the more you see all the little details this thing took. Lots of fence gates, signs, shelves. It takes a while, yeah, but I mean, I enjoy the process of finding the perfect block. This thing came out a lot bigger than I expected though, and somehow this is looking like the easiest part of this build. But there's still a lot left, so let's get back to work. This section I'm building now is honestly my favorite part of this build, that being the huge spire that towers over the rest of the church. As I'm researching for this build, I'm amazed by the meticulous detailing these French Gothic structures have. It took over 200 years to complete it, and it was like a flex project too. The purpose was primarily to represent the power of the church and medieval France at the time. It's so interesting looking at the religious devotion societies of the past had, and I'm so glad we could still see these massive feats today. But enough history, let's build. With the spire in place, one final section remained, the piece that would tie the entire structure together. This section isn't flashy or anything, but structurally it's critical. If I mess this up, technically the whole building collapses. These arches are called flying buttresses. They basically transfer the roof's weight outward into the ground, which is what allows the walls to stay thin. The closer I get to finishing builds, it becomes less about following reference photos and more just working off of what I've already placed. With the final block placed, the Lapis City Church is one step closer to being open for worship. Wow, I am just so proud of myself. I think this is my greatest architectural achievement in this game. The amount of detail this thing took to plan is unfathomable. It really makes the arch look like nothing compared to it. Design-wise though, I experimented a little bit for sure. There were so many opportunities for little details. I really had fun with this project, whether it's the paintings as stained glass mosaics or the armor stands as crosses. There's so much to take in, and I just love that with builds. But I really feel like this build is at a higher standard compared to the rest of the city, and it gets me excited for the future to see how I can improve with the rest of the buildings throughout this district. And this French Gothic style is honestly beautiful, so I'm definitely going to do some more research into future projects similar to this. But building at a higher standard doesn't stop at the structure. If this cathedral is meant to redefine the city, then everything around it has to rise too, even the trees. So I headed out into the unknown to resupply on Azalea. This will be my first attempt at a larger tree, as most of the trees throughout Lapis are pretty small in comparison. My travels led me all throughout the neighboring regions, coming across many villager settlements where I was provided shelter for the nights. After lots of traveling and diplomatic work, it was time for me to begin heading back to Lapis. I've been to all the lush caves I could find throughout this region that I haven't been to already. I'm roughly about 3,500 blocks from Lapis City, so not that bad of a haul. Should be enough for this tree. I took a horse I found on this trip. You know, sometimes you just need an elytra break. It makes the game feel more real. But I'll spend the night in this honestly beautiful village, so by morning I could begin traveling back to Lapis. So I'll probably build 2 of these large trees, one oak-based and the other birch-based. I'm basing these off of a tree called the horse chestnut tree, which is seen all throughout public spaces in Paris. But they will definitely create some differentiation between the tree heights in this city. Also, I think this is a good time to mention that all of my builds in this city, plus the trees, are up on my Patreon if you're interested. It would mean a lot. But let's finish up these trees so we can begin setting up an interior for this church. I'm honestly really glad I built these. I've always struggled with custom trees, especially larger ones. Something with the leaf placement always messes me up. I think these are a major upgrade though. The birch variant was a last second decision. I love custom birch trees, and I know the tough is a questionable choice, but I think it's a perfect bark. It does its thing texture-wise. But it was time to begin an interior for this church, so I headed inside and began planning out the base layout. The goal is that this is both a beautiful interior but also a functional one, as I have a bunch of librarians ready to move in. I don't necessarily need them for books anymore, but as I mentioned earlier, they're pretty viable for repairing my tools. Plus we need some villagers to protect the forbidden lapis text. Okay, I'm pausing here for a second because I need to show off some of this interior so far. Interiors have always been my kryptonite, but this is the first time where I feel like I'm genuinely putting a lot of effort into it, and the more interiors I make, the more intuitive the whole process becomes. I sectioned it off into a main center hall where the pews are and the church sessions would take place, and then made some hallways and small rooms for villagers to work and roam around. Lots of detailing though. I'm trying to take some of my exterior details like shelves and signs and bring them into the interior. It helps fill up room and definitely gives off that architecturally sculpted look, if you know what I'm referring to. But we got one more section left, so let's finish this interior. This is definitely a grand interior for sure. The problem with planning interiors with multiple rooms and sections is that you lose a lot of space to work with, but while the interior technically isn't to scale with the actual build size, I really think the side rooms and hallways make it feel a lot larger than it is. As I mentioned earlier, I definitely put the most effort into this interior compared to the others I've made in this city. I want this district to be much more interactable, if that's a word, so more functional buildings and decorative interiors. But to take you through the process behind this, I always plan out a shape first. Like I knew I wanted these archway roofs in the main hall, lower ceilings in the outer rooms. I don't really plan it all at once, I kind of go section by section, therefore I could use a fully built and detailed section as a guide and inspiration for the next. I tried some new details in here though. I'm trying out a new chandelier type with the grindstone and candles. I kind of accidentally came up with that, but I ended up really liking it. Lots of paintings too. The idea is that the church is filled with ancient art and mosaics from villagers of the past, hence why I added a statue from the arch to kind of be like a centerpiece to represent that the villagers worship these ancient gods. Also got this idea from the Temple of Time and Breath of the Wild. Link worships statues for his health and stamina, and that's the greatest game of all time, so I figured I'd carry that over. But it's the time of the video where I thank everyone who made this episode possible and add their names to the Opera House name wall. To start, I want to thank Thomas for becoming a Patreon member. That really means a lot. I'm glad you guys enjoy my builds enough to want to download them. And speaking of that, if you do, as I mentioned earlier, my Patreon is right in the description. I've also added 4 of you to the wall who suggested building a church. I hope I found you all. I had to do some digging. But please keep the suggestions coming. You guys have been super creative with them every upload, and I really appreciate that. I try my best to implement something recommended by you guys every video. Also, if you stayed this far, that probably means you're one of my loyal supporters, so thank you for that as well. But before we do a final cinematic to show off the recent progress of the city, I want to go back to the restaurant we built from a few episodes ago and fix up the windows because they've been bothering me for so long and I just never got around doing it. And by fix up, I really mean just give them the concrete and fence look, which gives the build more depth. With the windows fixed, it was time for a final cinematic. But I have a lot planned for this city in the future. We're still so far from completing this district. If you take a look at this updated map of the district, you'll see that so far we've constructed a residential building, the Arc de Doog, and the Notre Dame. But there's still so many open plots that we have to fill. I figured we'd set up shops in one, maybe a Strudsville embassy in another, which was actually suggested by one of you, and I really like that idea, building embassies in other cities for receiving and exporting deliverables. And if you're new and don't know Strudsville, it is my Dutch city, the first city I built in this world way back before I started posting on here. But I definitely plan on creating some sort of economic interconnection at some point, especially when I branch out to other styles of cities and time periods down the road. But for now, let me know what we should build next to fill these plots. Your suggestions are always so creative. However, that's gonna do it for this episode. Thank you so much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed. If you want to support me further, I've put my Buy Me a Coffee in the description, as well as my Patreon, which has the schematics for all of my builds in this city. But again, thank you guys so much. Let me know what I should build next in the city. All of your ideas are appreciated. And let me know how I'm doing editing-wise and flow-wise. I'm really trying to work on that. Anyways, thank you so much, and bye.